My beloved, gather close. I want to speak with you today about something that burns within the hearts of those who truly seek, a fire that both illuminates and scorches, a gift that becomes a burden, a sight that opens worlds yet closes doors. I speak of seeing. Not with these eyes of flesh that gaze upon the surface of things, but with those deeper eyes, the eyes of understanding, of perception, of spiritual awakening. You see, there is a peculiar danger in becoming awake when the world sleeps. There is a cost to having your eyes opened when all around you remain comfortable in their blindness. And I know this intimately, for I walked among those who could not see what I saw, who could not hear what I heard, who stumbled in darkness while claiming they had light. But let me take you back to the beginning, back to the garden where this ancient drama first unfolded. For in that pristine place, beneath those primordial trees, the first eyes were opened. And with that opening came knowledge, yes, but also exile. With that seeing came awareness, but also shame. The serpent whispered promises of enlightenment. Your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And it was true. Their eyes were opened. They did see what they had not seen before. But here's what troubles the heart. Was this seeing a blessing or a curse? Was this knowledge liberation or imprisonment? Adam and Eve saw their nakedness, something that had always been there but had never troubled them. They saw vulnerability where there had been innocence. They saw separation where there had been union. They saw death lurking in the shadows of their newfound awareness. And suddenly, the garden that had been paradise became a place they could no longer inhabit. Not because God cast them out in anger, but because they could no longer see it as it was. Their perception had shifted, and with that shift, everything changed. This is the first danger of seeing what others don't. Once your eyes are opened, you cannot close them again. You cannot unknow what you have come to know. You cannot unsee what you have witnessed. The child who discovers that the world is not safe, that trust can be broken, that love can wound, that child can never return to the innocence that was lost. The veil, once torn, remains torn. And so I come to you, not as one who has remained blind, but as one who sees, perhaps who sees too much, too deeply, too completely. I see the hearts of men laid bare. I see the pretense and the performance. I see the fear that masquerades as righteousness, the emptiness that poses as fulfillment. I see the sick who think they are well, and the prisoners who believe they are free. When I walked through the temple courts and saw the money changers turning my father's house into a marketplace, I saw more than corruption. I saw the human heart's endless capacity to commercialize the sacred, to reduce the infinite to transaction, to place a price tag on that which is priceless. When I looked at the Pharisees with their long robes and their places of honor, I saw more than hypocrisy. I saw the terrible ease with which religious devotion becomes spiritual pride, with which the pursuit of God becomes a ladder for self-elevation. And here is where the danger deepens. When you see clearly, you become alienated from those who do not. I told my disciples, to you has been given the secret of the kingdom of God, but for those outside, everything is in parables. Do you understand what I was saying? I was acknowledging a division, a separation, a chasm that forms between those who see and those who don't. Not because I desired it, but because it is the inevitable consequence of awakening. When you begin to perceive the patterns others miss, when you recognize the illusions that hold society together, when you see through the stories people tell themselves to remain comfortable, you become dangerous. Not because you intend harm, but because consciousness itself is revolutionary. Truth is destabilizing. Light exposes what was hidden, and not everyone wants to see what has been revealed. My disciples, these rough fishermen, these tax collectors, these ordinary souls, they began to see things. I opened their eyes gradually, teaching them through parables and private explanations, through miracles and quiet moments beside the sea. And as their vision expanded, their lives became more complicated, more difficult, more dangerous. Peter saw that I was the Messiah, the Son of the living God. "Blessed are you, Simon," I told him, "for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." But what came with that blessing? Within moments, I was rebuking him, calling him Satan, because his newfound sight was still partial, still distorted by human expectation. He saw I was the Messiah, but couldn't see that the Messiah must suffer. He had one eye open and one eye closed, and that's a perilous way to walk. This brings me to another dimension of the danger. Partial sight is sometimes more treacherous than blindness. When you see fragments of truth but not the whole, when you perceive certain patterns but miss the deeper design, when you understand the words but not the music, you become convinced of your enlightenment while still dwelling in shadow. This is perhaps the most subtle and dangerous condition of all. The Pharisees studied the scriptures diligently. They saw the letters, the commandments, the prophecies, but they couldn't see me standing right before them. They had sight enough to navigate the religious system, to maintain their authority, to teach and judge and condemn, but they were blind to the very thing their sight was meant to reveal. If you were blind, I told them, you would have no guilt. But now that you say we see, your guilt remains. Do you grasp the paradox? Claiming to see while being blind is worse than knowing you're blind. The blind beggar Bartimaeus knew he couldn't see, and so he cried out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me," and his sight was restored. But the religious leaders, convinced they could see perfectly, remained in darkness because they never asked for light. When you see what others don't, you must hold your sight with humility, with trembling, with the constant awareness that you may be seeing only in part. For now we see in a mirror dimly, as I will inspire my servant Paul to write. Your perception, no matter how expanded, is still limited by the vessel of your humanity. The danger is not in seeing, but in believing your sight is complete. And yet, there is grace even in this danger. There is a purpose to the burden of sight. When I stood on the mountain and looked out over Jerusalem, my heart broke. "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing." I saw what was coming, the destruction, the scattering, the suffering. I saw the consequences of their blindness, and it grieved me to my very core. This is the prophet's burden, the seer's sorrow, to perceive what is coming and to be powerless to prevent it because others cannot see what you see. Noah saw the flood before the rains came. Jeremiah saw the exile before the armies arrived. I saw the cross before the nails were forged. But here's what sustains the one who sees. Vision is not given for your comfort, but for your obedience. When I told my disciples that I would go to Jerusalem and suffer many things and be killed, Peter took me aside and rebuked me. "Far be it from you, Lord, this shall never happen to you." He saw that I was the Messiah, but couldn't see that the Messiah's path led through death to resurrection. His partial sight made him resist the very thing that would save the world. I had to teach them, slowly, painfully, patiently, that seeing clearly means accepting what you see, even when it terrifies you, especially when it terrifies you. The advantage of sight is not that it makes life easier, it's that it makes life true. You begin to live in reality rather than illusion, in the kingdom of heaven rather than the kingdoms of this world. When you see that wealth is not security, you stop hoarding. When you see that power over others is weakness, you begin to serve. When you see that your enemies are enslaved by the same fears that once bound you, you can love them. When you see that death is not the end, you can give your life freely. This is the liberation that comes with true sight, not comfort, but freedom, not ease, but authenticity. But make no mistake, this freedom comes at a cost. My disciples saw me heal the sick, cast out demons, raise the dead. They saw me walk on water and multiply bread. And because they saw these things, they could never return to their fishing boats with the same innocence. They could never look at the world the same way again. The ordinary had been shattered by the extraordinary, and there was no going back. Judas saw all of this too. He walked beside me for 3 years, witnessed every miracle, heard every teaching. Yet somewhere in his seeing, something twisted. Perhaps he saw my power, but missed my purpose. Perhaps he saw the kingdom I proclaimed, but wanted a different kind of kingdom. Perhaps he saw so much that he became overwhelmed, confused, desperate to force the vision into the shape he desired. And so he betrayed what he had seen, tried to orchestrate the outcome he thought should happen, and in doing so, he destroyed himself. This is the tragedy of sight without surrender. You try to control what you perceive rather than allowing what you see to transform you. The advantage of seeing what others don't, then, is not that it elevates you above them, but that it positions you to serve them more deeply. This is the paradox my disciples struggle to understand. When James and John came to me, asking to sit at my right and left hand in glory, they had seen enough to believe in my kingdom, but not enough to understand its nature. You do not know what you are asking, I told them. The cup that I drink, you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to grant. They saw the throne, but couldn't yet see the cross. They saw the crown, but missed the thorns. They wanted the advantage of sight, the prestige, the position, the power, without accepting the responsibility that comes with it. True vision obligates you. When you see the hungry, you cannot simply pass by. When you see the prisoner, you cannot pretend the cell doesn't exist. When you see the widow, the orphan, the stranger, when you truly see them, not as categories or problems, but as beloved children of the Father, you are compelled to act. This is why I said, to whom much is given, much will be required. If you have been given eyes to see, those eyes come with a mandate. You become responsible for what you perceive. You cannot claim ignorance. You cannot hide behind the excuse that everyone else is blind too. When I saw the woman caught in adultery, surrounded by men with stones in their hands and murder in their hearts, I saw more than her sin. I saw their sin too. The hypocrisy, the violence masked as righteousness, the way they used her body as a battleground for their theological debates. I saw her shame, yes, but also her humanity, her worth, her potential for transformation. And so I stooped down and wrote in the dust, who knows what words, what names, what truths. But when I rose, I spoke words that scattered her accusers. Let him who was without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her. They saw their stones. They saw her sin. But when I spoke, they suddenly saw themselves. And that sight sent them away, one by one, beginning with the eldest. This is the power and the danger of sight. It can liberate or condemn, heal or wound, unite or divide. It all depends on what you do with what you see. The woman remained. Has no one condemned you? I asked. No one, Lord, she replied. And then I gave her the gift that only true sight can give. Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more. I saw her completely, her past, her present, her possible future, and I chose to see not what she had been, but what she could become. This is the highest use of spiritual sight, to see beyond the surface, beyond the sin, beyond the circumstance, into the eternal soul. To see in others what they cannot yet see in themselves. To hold a vision of their wholeness even as they dwell in their brokenness. But here's what happens when you develop this kind of sight. You become lonely. Not the loneliness of isolation necessarily, but the loneliness of seeing what cannot easily be shared. How do you explain colors to those who have only known darkness? How do you describe music to those who have only heard noise? How do you communicate the texture of truth to those who have only tasted illusion? I often withdrew to lonely places to pray, not because I was antisocial, but because I needed to reconnect with the source of sight, with the Father who sees all things perfectly. In those quiet moments away from the crowds, away even from my beloved disciples, I could rest in the fullness of vision without the burden of trying to translate it, defend it, or justify it. This is essential for anyone who sees. You must have a place of return, a ground of being, a center that holds when the periphery becomes chaotic. Otherwise, the burden of sight will crush you. The prophet Elijah saw clearly the corruption of his generation, confronted the prophets of Baal, and then fled into the wilderness, so overwhelmed by what he had seen and done that he wanted to die. God had to meet him there in the cave and speak to him, not in the earthquake or the fire, but in the still, small voice. Sight must be balanced by silence. Vision must be tempered by rest. Otherwise, you will be consumed by what you perceive. Now, let me speak plainly about the advantages that Scripture reveals through my teachings, for there are genuine gifts that come with awakened sight, though they are not always the gifts we expect. First, seeing clearly allows you to walk in truth rather than illusion. When I said, "You will know the truth and the truth will set you free," I was speaking of this very liberation. The blind are enslaved by their blindness. They stumble, they fall, they are led astray by every voice that sounds authoritative. But those who see can navigate by their own inner light, can discern between the voice of the shepherd and the voice of the stranger. Second, sight enables you to serve more effectively. My disciples, once their eyes were opened, became fishers of men. They could see where the nets needed to be cast. They could perceive which hearts were ready to receive the seed, and which soil was too hard, too shallow, too thorny. This discernment is invaluable in the work of the kingdom. Third, and this may surprise you, those who see clearly are less judgmental of others. Why? Because when you truly see, you recognize the complexity of every human heart, the mixture of light and shadow in every soul, including your own. You see that the woman at the well has had 5 husbands, not because she is merely immoral, but because she is searching for something that only living water can satisfy. You see that Zacchaeus climbs the tree not just from curiosity, but from a deep loneliness and the hunger for acceptance. You see that Peter denies you 3 times, not from malice, but from fear, the same fear that lives in every human heart. But now, my beloved, let me speak of the disadvantages, the shadows that come with the light, the thorns that accompany the rose of awakened consciousness. The first and perhaps most painful disadvantage is the weight of responsibility. When Pilate stood before me, washing his hands and saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood," he was trying to escape the responsibility of his sight. He knew I was innocent. His wife had warned him. He had interrogated me and found no fault. He saw the truth, but he was afraid of the consequences of acting on what he saw. So he chose the crowd over his conscience, political expedience over justice. When you see clearly, you cannot wash your hands. You cannot claim neutrality. You are implicated in the truth you perceive, and this is a heavy burden to carry. It would have been easier for Pilate to be genuinely blind to my innocence, but he saw, and that seeing condemned him. The second disadvantage is relational tension. I warned my disciples, "I have not come to bring peace but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." This is not because I desired conflict, but because awakening creates division. When one person in the family sees clearly and others don't, there is friction. When you stop participating in the collective illusions that hold relationships together, those relationships often fracture. My own family thought I was out of my mind at one point. They came to take me away, convinced that I had gone mad. My mother and brothers stood outside while I taught, and when someone told me they were there, I looked at my disciples and said, "Who are my mother and my brothers? Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does the will of God, he is my brother and sister and mother." This was not rejection of my earthly family, it was recognition that true kinship is formed by shared sight, by common vision, by mutual understanding of the kingdom. And this is difficult, even painful. To find yourself more connected to spiritual siblings than to blood relatives, to feel misunderstood by those who should know you best, this is a real cost of seeing what others don't. The third disadvantage is the burden of foreknowledge. To see what is coming, whether blessing or disaster, and to know that others cannot see it, creates a kind of torture. Cassandra's curse, speaking truths that no one believes. I told Peter, "Truly I tell you, this very night before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." I saw his coming failure with perfect clarity. He protested vehemently, "Even if I must die with you, I will not deny you." But I knew, I saw, and I had to watch him walk toward that moment of shame, knowing I could warn him but couldn't prevent it, because the warning alone wasn't enough. He had to experience his own weakness before he could truly see it. What sorrow there is in seeing someone you love walk toward suffering, knowing that your words of caution will not be heeded until the lesson is learned through pain. This is the anguish of parents, of teachers, of prophets, of anyone who has developed the sight to perceive consequences that others cannot yet imagine. And yet, and here is the great mystery, even these disadvantages serve a purpose in the divine economy. Even the suffering that comes with sight is redemptive. When you carry the burden of sight, you are being conformed to my image. For I am the one who sees all things, who bears all things, who knows all hearts. To share in my vision is to share in my suffering, but also to share in my victory. In the world you will have tribulation, I told my disciples, but take heart, I have overcome the world. The one who sees clearly becomes a light in the darkness, not to show off their illumination, but to help others find their way. You become like a candle in a dark room, small, perhaps easily extinguished, but invaluable to those who are stumbling. You don't exist to condemn the darkness, you exist to provide an alternative to it. And here is the beautiful paradox. The more clearly you see, the more you recognize that you too are still learning to see. The light by which you illuminate others is not your own. It is borrowed, reflected, received as a gift. You are the moon, not the sun. You shine with the light of the Father, and apart from that source, you have no light at all. This keeps you humble. This keeps you dependent. This keeps you in the posture of prayer and surrender that is essential for maintaining your sight. So what shall you do with this seeing? How shall you carry this burden and this blessing? First, receive your sight as a gift, not an achievement. You did not earn it. You did not deserve it. It was given to you by grace, and it can only be sustained by grace. The moment you begin to take credit for your perception, you start to lose your perception. Second, hold your sight loosely. Don't clutch it. Don't hoard it. Don't weaponize it against those who are still blind. Remember that you too were once blind, and it was mercy that opened your eyes. Extend that same mercy to others. Third, translate your vision into love. This is the test of whether your sight is genuine. Does it make you more loving or more judgmental? Does it draw you toward others in compassion or repel you into isolation and superiority? The fruit of true sight is always love, patient, kind, not envious or boastful, not arrogant or rude. Fourth, accept the cost. There is no sight without sacrifice. There is no vision without vulnerability. Count the cost, yes, but then pay it willingly, knowing that what you gain is worth more than what you lose. And finally, fix your eyes on me. I am the author and perfecter of your faith. I am the light of the world. I am the one who gives sight to the blind and insight to the seeking. Keep looking at me, and your vision will continue to clear. Turn away, and the shadows will return. For in the end, all seeing is partial until we see face to face. All knowledge is fragmentary until we know even as we are fully known. The danger and the gift of seeing what others don't is that it propels you forward on the journey, away from comfortable illusion toward uncomfortable truth, and ultimately toward the one who is truth itself. When you arrive at that destination, when you collapse into me, when your sight merges with mine, when you know even as you are known, all the dangers will have been worth it. All the loneliness will be swallowed up in communion. All the burden will transform into glory. And you will understand that everything you saw along the way was preparing you to see the only thing that truly matters, the face of the Father, full of grace and truth. So open your eyes, beloved, see clearly, walk boldly, love radically. And when the seeing becomes too heavy, when the vision blurs with tears, when you wonder if the cost is too high, remember that I am with you. I who see all things walk beside you. I who know all things whisper guidance. I who am the light of the world illuminate your path. You are not alone in your seeing, and the eyes that have been opened will never fully close again, for you have glimpsed the kingdom, tasted the truth, touched the eternal, and that changes everything. Come now, and let your eyes be opened, not to see more of the world's illusions, but to see through them. Ask for the courage to perceive what others miss, and for the humility to hold that sight with grace. Don't seek vision for power or prestige, but for service and love. And when your eyes begin to open, when you start to see what has always been hidden in plain sight, don't close them in fear. Instead, walk toward the light, even when it exposes your own shadows. For in that walking, in that seeing, in that courageous embrace of truth, you will find me. And in finding me, you will find yourself as you were always meant to be, awake, aware, and alive in the fullness of the kingdom. Father of light, you who see all things from beginning to end, open my eyes to see as you see, not to elevate myself, but to serve more deeply. Give me courage to perceive the truth even when it costs me comfort. Give me humility to hold my sight as a gift, not an achievement. When I see what others don't, help me respond with compassion, not judgment. When I carry the burden of vision, remind me that I do not carry it alone. Let my seeing lead me always toward love, toward justice, toward you. Transform the danger of my sight into the blessing of service. And when I am weary from seeing too much, let me rest in your presence, where all vision finds its source and all knowing finds its home. Through Christ, who is the light of the world. Amen.